that. Same with Steel for Fairy type Pokemon coverage, and then you also resist other electric Pokemon. So you can come in on a lot of situations with Pokemon other than Raichu that are a bit tankier, but just shows the strength of the electric typing, and it is going to be a good benefit if you need it in a pinch on Raichu. Now, before we go into Pokemon Showdown to do the movesets, I want to showcase this magical Pikachu that was at the Taiwan National Championships. Unfortunately, I couldn't find the stream and I couldn't get a better quality video. Apparently, this one was downloaded from Facebook, so it's not the best quality. But this is all that you need to know about what Pikachu can do. So there's Xerneas. Xerneas goes for the Mega Blow-Up one-shot level 27 on that Pokemon, but survives with a Focus Sash, and then uses Endeavor, because this is the event Endeavor Pikachu, which is going to be a big part of the strategy, and then Pikachu is carrying priority known as Feint, and then it wins. So watch this right here. Feint, if Xerneas protected, it would have been game over, and that's how you destroy Xerneas with a Pikachu. There's a lot of counter tech going on right here. Also, the rest of your team comp does matter, but that's like the proof of concept behind the absurd power that is Event Pikachu. So let me go and like shift things around. So that's the layout we are familiar with. So we can see right here that if you enter the Pikachu Cup, you actually got the Fake Out Encore Volt Tackle Endeavor Pikachu. This is a very, very special Pikachu. The Endeavor only exists through this ability, and you get at level 10, so then you level up to like level 21. I don't know the reasoning behind the level 27 on that Pikachu, because I did bring up the moveset as well, and as you can see right here, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, level 21 is going to give you the Feint, and that's really all that you need, because what Feint does is that if the Pokemon is using Protect or Detect, it breaks that, and that's going to help out a lot in double battles. So the idea is that you're using Pikachu as a priority support Pokemon to knock down any protects. That way you don't have to overthink or maybe misplay on hitting an opponent that's actually protecting, and then you can snowball your advantage from there. So now let's go and hop into Pokemon Showdown and see what we have when it comes to Pikachu and stuff. So this is effectively the moveset that you can run on a Pikachu for a support doubles Pokemon, and as you can see, it can score the KOs because it just endeavors into the feints on the Focus Sash. Pikachu is going to be very similar to a Smeargle in that you have to hit it at some point, but you know it has a Focus Sash, but you know it's going to wreck you if you don't break that Focus Sash, but at the same time, there's a stronger Pokemon next to that Pikachu that's also just destroying you in the face. So there's a lot of weird things going on right here. In Pikachu, it can just use Endeavor without the Focus Sash being broken, because it still puts them down to 45 hit points. That is a very low amount for any other thing on Pikachu's side of the field, or your side of the field if you're using Pikachu, because then a Pokemon can just take that out with residual damage. Oh, Rock Slide, Discharge, whatever you want to do with that, it can just kind of go through and finish off the other Pokemon while doing substantial damage to the main Pokemon you are targeting as well. Also carries that Fake Out, has Encore, so I mean you can get that prediction on Xerneas as well. See Xerneas, if you get that set up, you Encore it, and then it's stuck using setup. If it went for the damage, well then it's not going to be as powerful because it didn't get the Geomancy, so it can be outsped, it can be stopped in that way. Feint, going to stop the Protect, Endeavor, and that's pretty much it. Now, this is the most use I see getting out of Pikachu, just running that Feint, but at the same time, Raichu does the same things. I think it's just a little more, like, disrespectful in a comedy way. I think it's trolling in that way, like, you just lost to the Pikachu. I just went full-on Ash Ketchum and destroyed you with my unevolved Pokemon, or something like that. Now with Raichu, you can kind of do the same things. Like, Pikachu or Raichu are mostly going to be mega massive support Pokemon, because when we look at the Pikachu and Raichu movesets, like, we get a lot of really cool stuff. The Feint's going to be a big one, but also we scroll down to like egg moves and stuff. We have Encore, we have Endure, we have Fake Out. Now unfortunately we can't like Endure because that's going to be an egg move that wasn't given away with the event Pokemon, but at the same time, if we're not running the event, then we can have Endure if we need to. Encore is going to be the big one. I mean, just a lot of really crazy stuff. We also get access to the Wish if we're playing a support in singles and maybe even doubles. I've seen it used once in doubles. It was pretty crazy. We also have Knockoff, so if we want to remove an opponent's item. Electro Web if we want to slow down the opponents. We have Helping Hand for the damage boost. Like, as a support Pokemon, it's absolutely amazing from what it gets, but then we have these weak defenses and low tank stats, but we're also fast at the same time. But the problem with Raichu is that a lot of its moves are going to be on priority depending on what you're using. Like, okay, Fake Out, that's priority. Feint, that's priority. Encore and Nuzzle aren't priority, but then we have like the 110 base speed. So depending on how we're playing it, we can get a lot of effective speed and effective stats off of this Raichu, but I would prefer to have, you know, tankiness in these situations if we're running it like this. Also, same with knockoff. You're using knockoff not for damage, but to remove items. Same with helping hand. Like, if you get rid of one of these moves, like Encore, and then put in helping hand, that's a priority move. So the speed is going to start becoming less of a factor depending on what you're putting onto it. And with Nuzzle, that's kind of to paralyze your opponent. That might come in with that 25% chance to hacks them out, but then it also means that you're going to be able to break a focus sash or just make it to where you're faster than your opponent now. So speed doesn't really work out once again. There's a lot of just stuff that could happen when you're running the Raichu, so it does give you a weird breakdown of how you're going to actually put the stats into it. Do you want the speed for Encore or Knockoff to just make sure they don't have their item when they're attacking you, or do you try to put some kind of tankiness in this Pokemon? Like, if you max out the hit points on this set, it's not a bad thing, because Nuzzle isn't meant to do damage. There's no real damaging moves here. It's all about that support. You want to break that Protect, so that way you can use a crazy move on your side of the field to make sure that that opponent's Pokemon goes down, but at the same time, like, putting points in defense, it's going to give you a huge amount. We go from 75 to 107. We're getting over 30% boost to our defense just from doing that, and then our special defense is okay, so we might want to go with like a special defense nature like this, but that's only if we're playing a heavy priority game and we're not too worried about getting outsped. But if we do want to make sure we get those outspeeds, then it's going to be a different game. Like, if we're running something like this, Kangaskhan will be able to outspeed us with that fake out. But if we want to outspeed the Kangaskhan, then we're going to need to go to the timid nature, which is going to make us less tanky and still very vulnerable on that defensive side, which is why a focus sash is a very necessary item. We can also see right here, you know, you can run the Thunder as well. Thunder is mostly going to be a VGC 2016 tech. If you see the Kyogre, you can just run the Raichu for that Thunder damage and go massive off of that. Raichu's abilities are interesting because you could use either of them. Static works because quite a few Pokemon will make contact on you and then they break your Focus Sash and then they have a chance of getting paralyzed. Or the Lightning Rod, because if they're using their own Thunder, if they're using their own moves like that, draws electric moves in so it can keep your Gyarados or your flying type Pokemon safe unless it's a discharge. But in the end, you're going to be gaining special attack, which will boost your Thunder out. So that's why we can look into the special attack speed investment on this set, because we at least have the one damaging move. Now, Thunder is a bit risky, does have that really low accuracy if it isn't raining, so that might be something to consider. You can run it next to your own Kyogre, or you can run it as like an anti-Kyogre thing. Even then, though, you're still going to have some problems dealing with like Groudon and other Pokemon. So the damage isn't massive, but it does give you that damage support option instead of running some kind of other move. Like, this is getting rid of the Nuzzle, so we're giving up the paralysis aspect, which is good, bad, because if you paralyze your opponent's Pokemon that's a sleeper, if they get that full paralysis on a turn, that can change an entire game more than a Thunder. But the Thunder has a chance to paralyze as well. It's one of those weird things. It's like Raichu's like a 7-move slot Pokemon. If you can put it in all of its optimal moves at the same time, you would do really well, but at the same time, you have to give and take depending on what your team needs, and I think that that's a big one. I can't build 4 different doubles Raichu compositions to tell you when to use Fake Out, when to use like Knockoff over Encore or something like that. It's also very meta dependent. Right now, Encore is going to be pretty solid. Like, what you can do is if you see a Kangaskhan, you fake out the opponent's other Pokemon, you let the Kangaskhan fake you out or your other Pokemon out. Like, if they hit your Raichu, that's going to be a waste because your Raichu already went off. So you pretty much trade fake outs, but then you go and you Encore, you outspeed, you Encore their Kangaskhan. Now they're stuck using fake out, which will always fail because it isn't the first turn anymore, and then you're free to like hit both of those opponents, and then you can also transition it over with the Feint just in case there's Protect plays, or you can go into Knockoff to remove the items of the other Pokemon. There's a lot of really crazy things you can do. Like, if you outspeed a Xerneas, knock off that White Herb as it goes into Geomancy, you're going to be in a pretty good position for that battle, so it's really meta dependent as to what works. Sometimes you might see more speed. I mean, if you nuzzle a Xerneas as it sets up the Geomancy, you can still find a good opportunity to outspeed it. It will have that special defense, so you will need like a very beefy steel attack to knock it down, but it's the little bits of advantages that work at different times with the Raichu. That's a big thing. Also, we have singles Raichu or just offensive Raichu. Raichu gets Nasty Plot. Like, of all the other moves that Raichu gets, it also gets the Nasty Plot, so it can double its special attack. It can get a crazy amounts of stats, and then it goes for the Thunderbolt. Again, a lot safer than Thunder. I don't think the 30% accuracy drop is worth the 20% or the 20 reduction in power. We have Hidden Power Ice. That way we can hit ground type Pokemon. And then we run the Focus Blast because it is good coverage. Like, we hit normal type Pokemon, Steel, Rocks. Like, we get really good coverage out of this Focus Blast. I'm just not a fan of that 70% accuracy, especially after using the Nasty Plot. Like, this only gives us those opportunities to where if we need a quick KO before setting up, Focus Blast can work. But now I wish there was like a special move like Aura Sphere that Raichu got access to. If it got access to the Aura Sphere, this would be a way better set, but it doesn't, and I guess it makes sense. Even though, as a mascot, I think you can kind of event Pikachu up in Aura Sphere or something like that, you know. But let's go and see why we're running the Focus Blast, because we don't get anything else. Thunderbolt, Thunder, physical. Echoed Voice doesn't really do too much for us on our coverage, because Thunderbolt's just going to be stab and a lot faster damage. Grass Knot. Well, Grass Knot's a bad move because we're going to be hitting Water-type Pokemon super effective anyways, and it does give us the advantage against Ground types, but that's why we're running the Hidden Power Ice. So if we want to, we could take off the Hidden Power Ice and then put in the Grass Knot, but then we're still going to be susceptible to Dragon Pokemon and Dragon Ground Pokemon like Garchomp, and I don't know, see, this is where it starts getting weird, so it depends on what you want. If you don't want to grind for a Hidden Power Ice, you can run the Grass Knot and then a Focus Blast, and then that means that you don't have to use it unless like a Steel or Normal type that you wouldn't have a KO on anyways. Now, I haven't talked about Cosplay Pikachu in this video because I did a somewhat recent video about Cosplay Pikachu. It's a really technical, crazy thing to talk about. You just get a lot of powerful moves, and then you run it as like just a fourth move slot thing to the Pikachu, and then you hope for the best because just extra coverage when Pikachu doesn't have it. Icicle Crash going to be better than Hidden Power. Meteor Mash is just really good for taking out fairies. It's kind of standard stuff on top of that, so nothing too fancy. And then we can go, I think, finish off this video by looking at some damage calculations. So I'll see, like, okay, the reason why I haven't shown an offensive Pikachu is because when we compare it, all right, where's that Pikachu I have set up? Pikachu, Light Ball, Timid Nature, so we're going to be slower. And if we have that Light Ball, we're doing less damage than if we're actually going to be running like a Life Orb Raichu. So that's why I have set up right here. Thunder onto a Kyogre, so Primal Kyogre, best case scenario, super effective damage. We win the speed tile Pikachu 70 to 84%. But when we have the Raichu doing effectively the same thing, it's got 76 to 89% while having more speed. So Life Orb Raichu just has more damage and more speed than a Light Ball Pikachu. So there's no real reason to talk about Light Ball Pikachu, even though it does have that really sick Endeavor Disrespect that I think is pretty cool. Also, just run some other damage calculations, like what can we do as we set up. So here's another cool thing about the Raichu. As we mentioned before, Lightning Rod, you can use this in singles. You can predict that electric attack, switch in Raichu, free Lightning Rod. Now you're at +1 while rocking that really high speed. So in situations where you're going up against something like Kangaskhan, if you have that +1, Focus Blast KOs it right there. And that means we can also Nasty Plot up to +3, where we can neutrally one-shot things like that. But it shows how low that special attack is. 90 base special attack. We need that +1 from Lightning Rod. We need to get a Nasty Plot. Sometimes we don't have to get on top of that, but it shows the damage isn't absolutely insane. I can bring up a Pokemon like Alakazam. So even though Alakazam is going to be a Pokemon that outspeeds us, we can see that, okay, let's pull this back down to level 50. You know, with that +3, yeah, we're going to be able to KO. But if we have a +1, chances are we might not KO a regular Alakazam, say on like Switch in, or if it's not a Life Orb Alakazam and it can't knock us out, I guess that's the case because it is faster than us like that. So we will need to have set up already. We will need to have the +1, but the +2 will be better. So those are the situations where if we don't get our Lightning Rod, we can still Nasty Plot and hope for the best. Just shows like our damage isn't that insane. And even like let's bring up these Salamence. So regular Salamence, since Mega Salamence will outspeed and just dumpster us. Actually, the Hidden Power Ice doesn't need any boosting. All right, that's good to know on a regular Salamence. So that means Garchomp, Dragonite would be a really interesting one as well because it has a multi-scale. So just like kind of shows like all the really weird situations that we're getting ourselves into. So let's go and bring this level 50. Yeah, we will need that +2, and even then with the +2, breaking that multi-scale is not guaranteed. So if we're at +3, then we're good to go. You might see an Air Balloon on some doubles Raichu because like Precipice Blades, Earthquake, moves like that. You know, Raichu, it doesn't want to eat those moves, so if it can avoid them through the Air Balloon and having a temporary levitate, that can be really nice. You also have the Fake Out, so it's kind of hard to hit you. If you can stay elusive like that while being supported by your other damage threat sweeper Pokemon, your Air Balloon might stay on the field for a couple turns, and it means you might not get directly one-shot by an Earthquake or something like that. So guys, enjoy the video. That's how you use Raichu and Pikachu, and hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.